All right, so now I'm gonna hand it over to Kip, who can take us through, he'll offer some key takeaways, and then you tell us what are the next steps for each and every one of you. Awesome. Let me share my screen for you, Kip.
Hello everyone. It's really exciting that we're here and looking at the responses to Mel's question is really exciting. And the one that got my attention is where people feel positive generally. So it's a good thing. So mine is just say a few things to close this. We are not really closing, but we are just postponing to next time. Um, so as we come here, all of us, for a couple of things. And one of the most common thing that brought us here is that participation is not happening as we want. It is sporadic, it is inconsistent, it is low quality, and the impact is not as we desired. And so we come here looking for solutions, and we come here to learn together. Well, most of us in the room have either program that is working currently, but we look forward to kind of figuring out, how could it then be made permanent. But there are also some of us, in the room who already have programs that have moved to mainstream stage, but the quality is not as you would like it to be, or the impact that it creates is not to the level where you want it to be. And so it's part of why we're all here. From People Power to OGP to ourselves at IPF, we've had, great discussions with you and thinking through how do we then move all these processes from one step to the other towards, more impactful, towards more meaningful processes, towards more consistent, and most importantly, permanent and sustainable. With the support of NED, and which we really appreciate them coming through. We are confident that we'll work with you through this journey, and we will make participation permanent and sustainable, and of course impactful, and inclusive as well. All the other things, the values that we're looking for. Now, this week we achieved a couple of things. One of them is that this workshop was not just for us to learn, about what mainstreaming is, and stuff like that, but also for us to unlearn other things that we thought we knew at first before we joined the program, but now we have different perspective of what these things are, and kind of learning new ideas, but also strategies and skills, and accessing different kinds of tools, like all the tools that our facilitators have introduced us to. Now, we had 4 days of really exciting learning, and I just want to kind of like recap, the kind of things that we covered in each day. So the first day, Team Use did a wonderful job, taking us through what mainstreaming is. From some of us initially were like, what is this? So initially it was an abstract, but now even from the comment that mainstreaming is feasible and it can be done, that tells you like we did the team that were taking us through what mainstreaming is did a very good job. Now we have an idea of how to diagnose gaps in existing participatory strategies towards making it permanent. We also have ideas of how to design inclusive legal frameworks and capacity building programs as part of strategies to mainstream participation. We also have ideas about how to explore ways to institutionalize, participatory programs into governance systems. Team pushed a challenge to us. One of them was, to think systematically, and to think systematically, that means that we have to think about what kind of policies and processes do we need to adapt so that then participation is embedded. We also then, we were challenged to also think about the kind of capacities that governments need to engage citizens meaningfully. What kind of legal frameworks and regulations or regulatory frameworks do we need as part of strategies that we're building, or the tools that we need? We're also talking about the institutional culture shifts that truly value participation. What do we need to do that? And just the exercises that we just came from talks about that, the mental models that we just looked at. We also learned from two very, successful examples of mainstreaming from Czechia and France. These are very interesting examples that we can borrow from, looking at how they did, what they did, and what is the current status of things. So that even as we're convincing our governments in different places where we are, we have examples to borrow from and say, well, this is how it's happening everywhere. I mean, anywhere. So that then it's possible that it can also happen here. Now, in the second day, we looked at legal frameworks and institutional frameworks. We talked about international, but also, national and domestic legal frameworks. And a couple of things for us to take home is thinking about what should participation look like, in our context. What kind of modalities are we looking at? What kind of systems we need to put in place? What's the frequency and who is to be engaged? What kind of outreach and capacity building do we need? And I talked about that as well. What kind of resources and administrative structures do we need to put in place? Legal instruments, sanctions, if participation is not happening the way it should be happening in the legal framework, what kind of sanctions do we need to put in place? In the third day, we put what we learned in the first day and the second day into practice. We started testing, tools. We first of all started with, value prepositions, but also looked at stakeholder mapping. Because, as we looked at, for you to mainstream participation, then there are a lot of stakeholders involved in the process. From political, players in the field to technocrats, to civil society, to citizens themselves who are the consumers of this kind of systems when they function. And we talked about the importance of mapping stakeholders. And one of them was to sharpen strategy. When you map your stakeholders, you have an idea of who supports your vision and who opposes your vision. And how do you turn them into allies? We talked about, the kind of limited resources. How do you then, once you have an idea of who your stakeholders are, then you are able to kind of like invest the scarce resources that you have on the people that matter most, in the process. Looked at, mapping also helps you to kind of mitigate risks, because if you know certain people are opposed to the idea, then you figure out what is the remedy to that. And of course, building coalitions. So once you have an idea of who is supporting this idea, then you're better placed to kind of think about what kind of coalitions we build. And of course, we also talked about, once you have these stakeholders mapped, how do you then convince them, the ones that are not your allies or the ones that don't understand what you're doing better? How do you sell the idea of mainstreaming to them? And which is where Revise, Sylvania, and Riska was taking us through about building or developing a value preposition, clearly articulating the benefits of mainstreaming, for example. And you can see from the exercise we just did that there are people who would want to know, when we do participation better, what is in it for us as government officials or public officials or civil society, for example. We also talked about when you're also selling the idea of mainstreaming, then you're aligning goals with your stakeholders. You also then using these tools to advocate and implement your strategy or your reform at the end of the day. And today we did, we just came from the exercise, and team again, came back with, very interesting conversation about what of systems change. And we learned new things. This is one of those things that I've learned personally. Like I've had an idea, but this is one of the things I learned more, deeply from what I knew in the past. So we're talking about changes in 6 conditions, and these are structured into 3 categories. And we looked at structural change, relational change, transformative or transforming mental models. And these are things that, will invite you to kind of use these tools continuously and interact with it. Tim is available, he's one of your mentors. You'll be able to kind of engage him, and ask more questions. But of course, the rest of us are also part of the team. These materials, including the model, is available in in the LMS. Now, I want just to conclude this session by saying thank you, a big thank you. I don't have any more words to add above thank you, but we are looking forward to working this journey with you. The next couple of months is going to be interesting, as it has been interesting, and we look forward. Now, if you can move the next slide. All right, so we are here, and you know where the arrow is pointing. And then what we're going to do next, a couple of things. So first of all, we will have one more virtual session before we have a final virtual session that probably could be an in-person meeting. So what we're going to do, some of you may have missed today's session or yesterday's session or day 1 or day 2. Don't worry about it. We will upload all this content in the LMS for you to catch up. You can watch the videos. You can, you know, look at. Of course, I mean, the way we've recorded this is that it gives you also, you know, transcripts for the, you know, the notes that your speakers are saying. The next thing that I want to do is begin your work plans. And the most important part of this is your course, the 4th course in the LMS, which takes you through how to, you know, use the playbook. The playbook is a very important component of this. Now, after this session, I've enrolled all of you into the 4th course of this. So please go and take that course. Understand if you have challenges, we will be able to address them. But Melissa and the team at People Powered should be able to send you logins for the playbook. But first of all, you have to kind of, you know, finish the course, have an idea about it works, and then, you know, should be able to get. Now, the next steps will be developing your action plan. So you have an idea of where things are right now, what you need to do, and the kind of strategies that you need. Some of them may not be clear right now, but don't worry about it. You have your mentor, you have all these other materials that we're sharing with you, but you also have all of us here to start to begin, you know, helping you to figure out. We also expect you to organize at least 2 mentorship sessions, the first and the second mentorship session with your mentor. So if you haven't until now schedule a call with your mentor, please do so. And then remember, at every mentorship session or after every mentorship session, you have to go to the LMS and do you know, a debrief of that mentorship session, just talking about what happened, how it happened, you know, just a bit of reflection of the process. And then, you know, continue developing your action plan. This is going to be a continuous process. That the playbook has several stages. And so you have to go through that stages. And so you have to finish certain things first so that then you have room, you know, to adjust your plan and come back and add additional or change the kind of ideas that you're looking at. And then reach out to your peers and learn from each other. We've created a WhatsApp group for you guys. So if you have any questions, drop in there. Some of you might have solutions to some of them or answers to your questions. And those ones that we can take up, that would be nice. So just, you know, come use some of these platforms that we have. We will also create a Google groups by end of tomorrow. So you should have more platforms for engagement and communication. Anything else that you wanted me to say, or is that the end of it? Good. So with that, I want to invite you to this journey, and then we continue together, you know, working on your reform journey. Mel, thank you.
That was just to answer some of your questions about the practical next steps of where are you going after this. And now I have a few minutes, about 5 or so, for you all to share some key takeaways. What would you like to share? We don't all get to talk, especially when we're online, but this is your moment to share, to reflect, to request something. Yeah. We have about 5 minutes. If I haven't heard from you, or if you would like to share something, please feel free to unmute and give us your thoughts.
Well, just to say thank you. Thank you for everything. Sometimes when it's not a political priority, the participation, or even is discouraged, you could feel alone in this like fight. So being here is really a great motivation. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Anyone else?
Okay, sorry, my video is not good, so you might not see my face, but that picture is really me. I want to thank you for the past 4 days, very eye-opening, and I think I picked up quite a number of things, especially with respect to stakeholder mapping, and also the deep reflection we did about systems change with our team today. Something came up in a coffee room yesterday, and I think I want to just bring it over here. When I signed up for this MPA, one of the biggest attraction was the opportunity to have an in-person meet people. I like meeting people physically. And when it was challenged at the beginning, I felt a bit bad, but there was something that came up to say that we might have one day or half a day or something later, towards the end, like October or so. Now, my question is that can we get confirmation of this early, because some of us will need to do visas, and we're traveling different directions at that time. We need to have enough time to send our passports in for visas and get them back and apply to the other countries. Thank you.
Chip, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, thanks for that. And I know, I mean, it's one of those things we are looking forward to. Mel was looking forward to coming to Nairobi, but unfortunately, we're still figuring out we can still come to Nairobi on one of those days. Yeah, but we're confirming a couple of things. So allow us the next couple of weeks, around 2 to 3 weeks. Well, it could go to a month or so to just figure things out and get confirmations. But the plan so far so good. Tentatively, we're meeting at the end of at the beginning of October. So we're thinking about having an in-person meeting as part of the OGP summit that's happening in October. So we will confirm this. But that's the plan. So allow us the next month or so to just firm this up.
Thank you.
Awesome. 2 more minutes if there's any other questions. Otherwise, we'll close it and we can go to the next session. Amanda, do you have anything you want to say? No?
No, I can say very quickly that I'm very proud of you all in this room. Mainstreaming can be very abstract. Transforming governance, it is a big change, it's a big challenge. First, I want to thank you all for accepting this challenge and being here, championing this. Lots of learning will come from you all to also influence other people in this work with governments and civil society organizations. A lot that we talk, every time we talk about governance, there's a lot of weight in governments, but here in this room, I can hear a lot of solutions and a lot of work also coming from civil society organizations, advocates, and other government reformers. So I'm very proud of you all, and thank you for being here for 1 week. It's a lot, and unfortunately, we were not able to be in Kenya together, but this is something to add value of us being a cohort and being in this room. So thank you very much for accepting this challenge.